Hi everyone, I'm Katie. I'm the Content Officer at Nutritionist Resource. Today I'm joined by Esther Donoff, a registered nutritional therapist and member of Nutritionist Resource. Esther specialises in weight management, cardiovascular and digestive health. So welcome Esther, thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be chatting about a topic that the pandemic has almost shone a light on really, and it's become quite clear that many people are searching online for support when perhaps their usual resources are out of reach at the moment. So we're going to be talking about weight gain and specifically how to gain weight healthily. So first I would like to welcome Esther, and Esther, perhaps you'd like to say a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Thank you for having me today. So I'm a nutritional therapist and I've been in practice for nearly 4 years now. This isn't my first career. I actually worked in the pharmaceutical industry prior to that on drug development and case report form design for use in clinical trials. But I switched over to nutritional therapy a few years ago. And so I've sort of moved my focus instead of about what drugs do to the body, but the same body, but what food does to the body instead. And I've always been interested in helping people to feel better using, science and applying my scientific knowledge. And that's my passion really. That's what I love to do.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, there certainly is a growing trend and theory around food as medicine. So yeah, it's something that is definitely at the forefront of a lot of people's minds at the moment. So I think we'll start from there. So Esther, perhaps you could talk a little bit about why you might think that there's been an increase particularly since the pandemic began, about how to gain weight healthily.
Okay, so there's lots of reasons really why people are struggling to gain weight in a healthy way. I think that the pandemic has thrown a light on health. And we have seen, people with underlying health conditions being affected in a greater way by COVID-19 than maybe people who are in a better state of health. It's a bit of a generalization, but people with, different illnesses and maybe different weight, obesity have certainly experienced the disease of COVID in a harder way, and with maybe long-term effects as well. And while we've seen a lot of, the problems caused by obesity, a low weight, a low BMI, a low body mass index, is also not healthy and can be a sign of other underlying health problems. There's also been a lot of people struggling with stress by lots of different things, whether that's financial, whether it's relationships. People who've maybe kept their relationship going because they've been sort of out the house all day, now thrown together. And so there's been, a lot of relationship breakdowns, bereavements, stresses with children being at home all the time. And stress can cause weight loss, whether with all the best will in the world, it can cause loss of appetite and then the resulting weight loss. And so people who are wanting to gain weight, you might think that, well, I'll just, eat loads of whatever, chocolates and whatever, and I'll gain weight. But it's, if you want to be in the best health possible and you want to support your immune system, you really want to think a little bit more, be a little bit more clever about how you do gain that weight. And also it's probably worth mentioning that weight loss can be a sign of a serious illness as well. While most people are trying to gain, a lot of people in the pandemic, trying to lose weight and get healthy and get fit. But, there are people, a large proportion of people for whom, they really struggle to gain weight, and they look enviously at all those people who, just seem to maintain a healthy weight very easily, or even are a little bit overweight. And they can be wondering, well, why can't I do that? I'm doing all those things, I'm eating plenty, and why can't I gain weight? So, it is a problem.
So are there any general rules if someone was perhaps searching online and looking for help? We always advocate that if you're going to change your diet, it's best to speak to a nutrition professional. But are there any general rules you can apply to gain weight healthily at the moment?
Yes. So what we want to be doing is making sure that every mouthful that you're having is really nutrient and energy dense. So we talk about foods being, energy dense is their amount of calories in a particular food. And the sorts of foods you want to be looking at are the ones that are healthy, but that have, that contain a calorific load but are providing lots of nutrients. So things like nuts and avocados, healthy fats, also making sure you're having plenty of protein as well, and combining it with complex carbohydrates. So that's like the brown carbohydrates we tend to call them. So, whole grains and root vegetables, things like that, but also adding on a nice smattering of very energy dense foods to that. So your nuts and seeds. When I'm talking to people about weight gain, I say just sprinkle it on nuts, seeds, whatever you're having, a soup or a salad or whatever meal you're having, add on a sprinkle of some, flaked almonds or some sesame seeds or poppy seeds or something. So it just adds really, nutritious calories to the mix. Put a, glug of olive oil on your vegetables. Because it's still important to eat those less energy dense foods like vegetables, for they contain a lot of nutrition. But you want to maybe add a little bit of olive oil on there or some sesame oil, something to a little bit more calories in there.
Absolutely. And I suppose it's all about variety as well. So adding in lots of different flavours that you can include.
Yeah, different nuts, different seeds, different types of oily fish, different, sources of protein. So, dairy and eggs and poultry, beef, fish, all of those, and really trying to open up your horizons and trying lots of different foods. And for some people, they struggle with their weight, to gain weight because they have a condition that maybe means that they've lost their appetite, or the medication that they're on can cause appetite loss. Some conditions cause problems with swallowing and with the mouth, so that can be really hard. You might need to, have blended foods like soups, and smoothies, things like that, yogurts, which are easier to eat. And then you just really want to be still adding those nutrient-dense foods, but in a different form. So if you can't eat nuts, then maybe put some nut butter on. If you can't put olives on, put some olive oil on. If you can't eat some fish or chicken, maybe make it into a pate or something. So it's a little bit easier to have. So it's just about not making yourself eat foods that you can't eat, but making them in a form that is easier for you to eat.
Is there anything we should be supplementing when we're trying to gain weight? Obviously, it would be personal to each person, but are there some general supplements that aid adding weight?
So I really like people to get their food from food. I like them to get their nutrients from food in the first instance. And I would certainly always try with a client in the first session to just go with food, if possible, like the things that I've talked about. In some cases where someone is, maybe not fussy, but maybe there's a lot of restrictions on their diet for whatever reason, maybe like we said, they can't eat very much, or maybe for religious reasons they can't eat certain foods, then we might suggest something, like an energy dense, sort of like a protein powder, something like that to help them. But it is important with these things to make sure you're getting something really good quality. There are lots of powders and supplements out there that contain lots of fillers and emulsifiers and things, and it would be best to really either speak to a professional or to really do your homework and make sure that what you're doing, what you're eating is good quality, and is what you want to be eating. Especially if you've lost your appetite, you really want to make sure that every mouthful is good and not full of preservatives and whatnot.
Absolutely. That actually leads me nicely to my next question. We always get remarketed and followed around on social media with protein powders, and these you should be adding to your food. So is protein powder helpful, and is it really healthy? Is it something we should be considering if we were trying to gain weight?
I think ideally we'd want people to be getting their protein from food.
Mm-hmm.
So protein is in meat, it's in poultry, it's in fish, it's in eggs and dairy. If you don't eat those foods because you're vegan or following a more plant-based diet, there are lots of plant-based sources of protein in legumes, in nuts, in seeds, edamame, which is soya, lots of soya products, tofu, things like that. So ideally, you really want to be getting your protein from food. But if you struggle with that, then a protein powder might be, a helpful solution for an individual. But I would rather that they be eating food, because remember, food doesn't just contain protein powder. Food contains lots of different, compounds and all sorts of things that we don't just get from having a powder. There are, just think about a Brazil nut, for example. It doesn't just contain protein, it doesn't just contain healthy fats, it contains lots of different plant compounds, contains fiber, it contains all sorts of things packaged up into that Brazil nut. And you can't get all of that just from having supplements and powders. Yeah. So yeah, ideally you really want to be getting it from food, but certainly protein powders have their place.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So we've talked a fair bit about food. So what kind of changes to your lifestyle could you suggest? So could it be weight training or exercise, as well as making those changes to your diet?
Okay, so I think it would depend on what you're hoping to achieve. So I've had some people coming to me, clients for weight gain that really want to build muscle. And, so then exercise is always important for everyone. But for somebody like that, they might want to be doing some strengthening exercises. But just sort of, if you just want to be gaining weight, I would say that exercise is healthy and it has its place, but not to over-exercise, because you don't want to be burning up too much. I don't think that intense exercise is really that healthy for anybody. I think moderation is key in most things. But yeah, exercise is healthy, but just not to overdo it, and to do it for pleasure, for mental health, your cardiovascular health, for those reasons. In terms of other lifestyle things, even if you are stressed, and if one of the reasons that you're losing weight is through stress, then that is clearly something that needs some management. And we can't all control the stress that we have. Certainly I'm feeling a complete lack of control at the moment over lots of areas, but it's if things can't be changed, then it's about how you manage it. So that might mean that you speak to somebody, it might mean that you speak to a support group or somebody that it might mean that you just find things to do to help you cope with it. So whether that's walking, reading, exercising, just sitting, listening to music and breathing, and those sorts of things can help to manage stress. I did have a client once who actually managed to keep herself healthy, and her doctor wanted her to be on antidepressants, but she didn't want to be, and she said her daily walk was like her antidepressant.
Oh, wow.
She didn't have it. Yeah, it was really that powerful for her. I don't think it was even, that the walk was more powerful for her than some of the nutritional recommendations that I made, actually. That was really the thing that helped her and that she felt medicated her, that daily walk. So don't underestimate the power of some of these small lifestyle things. And also I would say to look at your sleep. If sleep is something that you're struggling with, and a lot of us are at the moment, to make sure that you practice good sleep hygiene, by which I mean I'm sure everyone has clean sheets that's listening to that. It's not about that, but about making sure the room is dark, making sure the bed is comfortable, making sure that your screen is off and maybe in another room if possible, and that you've got cotton bed sheets and all of those things that it sounds simple, but actually they can really make a big difference. That winding down before bed, not watching a horror film or getting into an argument before bedtime, that sort of thing. So just some of those sleep, stress, and exercise can be helpful.
Definitely, and just even as you said, making those tiny tweaks to your daily routine can help in massive ways. So it doesn't have to be a huge overhaul of your life. It's just some simple things that can really
not
helpful. Lovely. So I often hear, through doing lots of research, that it might be a well-meaning loved one who would say, oh, why don't you just eat more, just when you're trying to gain weight, and generally that's not so helpful. So is there anything you could say in response, or is there any reason why people might say that, you think?
I think people, they mean well. And it's, it does make, I suppose, some sort of sense to say, well, if you're needing to gain weight, then you should eat more. But it's more about what you eat as well. I mean, yes, eating more can help you gain weight, but you also if you want to gain weight, you're probably doing it because you want to be healthy. So you want to be making sure that you're gaining weight in the right way. I always think that what other people say is their business, and what you think about yourself is your business. So, it's great when people are helpful, but if you're feeling very sensitive about, your weight, then it can be a little bit less than helpful. And I would say, just to thank you, just to say to the person, thank you for your comments. I'll bear it in mind. But it's very difficult to tell somebody to eat more when they have very little appetite, or
Yeah.
when they're not feeling well. So, and every day is different for different people. So I would say to do the best you can, make sure that what you're eating is healthy and energy dense and nutrient dense, to seek out professional advice, rather than listening to well-meaning relatives and friends, and to take each day as it comes. It may be that one day you can eat a little bit more, and then another day it's not so easy, but not to give up, and to keep trying. I would also add, actually, that I mentioned earlier about different health conditions that may mean that you're losing weight, and that's when a professional can be really helpful to identify those things. It might be that you think that you're losing weight because you're stressed, but there may be some serious underlying condition, and it would be really best in the first instance to speak to your GP, in case there is something sinister underlying. I mean, normally there isn't, but it shouldn't be ignored, and it's important to rule out some of these more serious conditions that can be not caused by, that are associated with weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So why is seeing a nutritional therapist helpful to gain weight? What are the benefits of nutritional therapy to apply to weight gain?
So a nutritional therapist works very much with the individual, and they can really personalize a diet to help that person to gain weight. Weight gain is really difficult, actually. It is really hard to gain weight, which I know that millions of people struggle with weight gain, because they want to lose weight, but actually many people, it really is it can be a very slow process. But a nutritional therapist can help detect if there may be an underlying gut issue, for example, or maybe a thyroid condition, which may be a reason why that person can't gain weight. If your gut is not functioning properly, if you're not absorbing your food properly, it doesn't really matter what you're eating. If it's not getting through the gut and into the body, you're not going to be able to put on weight. So a nutritional therapist can help to correct these imbalances, to maybe spot the signs of something like that, like something like malabsorption, and to maybe suggest a supplement to help with the health of the gut, so that the food is being broken down properly and absorbed into the body. And similarly with a thyroid condition, an overactive thyroid can be a reason why people may not be able to gain weight, and sort of addressing that imbalance in the thyroid can be achieved through medication, and also through diet and lifestyle as well, supplementation.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Esther. I hope you've all found it useful, and hopefully there are some things you can take away. But please do always speak to your nutrition professional or GP if you're hoping to change and manage your diet. As I said, Esther is a member of Nutritionist Resource, so you can find her on there, and via her website. Esther, did you want to share where someone could find you?
Yeah, sure. So my website is estherdonoff.com, which is my name. And I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn if anyone wants to look for me there.
Lovely.
Okay.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, and speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.